As I was doing chores, I heard a voice shouting from the venue. Why isn't Emily here? It was my father-in-law's voice. I thought I should at least greet my father-in-law and head towards the venue. Then I heard my husband and mother-in-law saying things like this to my father-in-law, giggling. If you're talking about that dirty woman, we're making her work in the back. Don't mess with me. What do you think a wife is for? My name is Emily. I'm a 23-year-old office worker. Currently, I'm dating a guy named Steve. Our encounter was a bit unusual. I was living by myself, and he was living in the apartment next door. One day, on my day off, I heard a sudden loud noise from next door. Did he just hit the wall? I wasn't being loud or anything. Although the TV was on, the volume was quite low. I was feeling uncomfortable, but gradually began to think someone had fallen. Worried, I pressed the doorbell of his room, but there was no response. I pressed the doorbell once more and listened carefully to a faint voice. Who is it? Are you all right? I called out, and after a while the door opened. The moment the door opened, a man was swaying, looking like he was about to fall. Are you okay? The man leaned against the door, looking dazed, and then he said, I'm starving. What? I haven't eaten anything in days. What? I hurried back to my place and looked for something to eat. I took the sandwich and some tea I had saved from yesterday and went back to his room. Here, have this if you like. Are you sure? I'd be more troubled if you starved to death. Thank you so much. Saying that, he bit into the bread and ate it up with incredible speed. He then gulped down the tea and let out a satisfied sigh. Thank you for the meal. I really thought I was gonna die. I'll definitely pay you back for the sandwich and tea later. No need. It's not a big deal. More importantly, why haven't you eaten anything for so long? Actually, after paying tuition and rent, I ran out of money all at once. So you're a student. I'm a senior in college. You don't work part-time or anything? Actually, the pub where I work suddenly went out of business. What? That's terrible. So I didn't get paid and my life became difficult all of a sudden. Didn't you talk to your parents? I didn't want to worry them. I see, but I think you should tell them. It's dangerous if you collapse from hunger like now. You're right, I'll be careful. Right after that, his stomach growled. Oh, I couldn't help but laugh. You must be really hungry. Well, it can't be helped since you haven't eaten for days. I decided to let him eat my homemade cooking. He hesitated, but I insisted, saying it'd be a problem if he collapsed from malnutrition, so I let him eat fried rice in my room. This is delicious. It's been a while since I had such good food. He ate like a child, eagerly and happily, which was so cute that it stirred my maternal instincts. We then introduced ourselves and exchanged contact information. I told him to contact me in case of an emergency. It seemed he found another part-time job soon after, and he was able to get a job at a restaurant with free meals. Thanks to you, I won't starve to death. I'm glad to hear that. Recently, when I came home from work, I'd cook a little extra and invite him over to eat together. I was always feeling lonely eating alone, so it was fun to have someone to eat with. As I was thinking about that, he suddenly made a serious face. What's wrong? As I asked nervously, he swallowed his saliva and said this. Emily, would you go out with me? Huh? I know I'm just a poor college student and I'm not a good match for you, but I've fallen for you. I was taken aback by his straightforward words. The fact was that I was also attracted to him. So I accepted his offer to date. I like you too, Steve. As soon as I agreed, he was delighted, and so we started dating. We enjoyed discussing things like whose room to hang out in since we lived next door to each other. We continued dating smoothly, and he found a job after graduating from college. We decided to move in together in a larger room when he got the job. Although we had already been practically living together, we thought it'd be better to share a larger room to reduce the rent burden for each of us. We continued dating for a while, and we got married when I was 26 and he was 25. Although we continued living in the same room we have been sharing, our lifestyle didn't change much after marriage. However, one thing changed immediately. That's about Steve's mother, who became my mother-in-law. Until now, we hadn't been involved with her at all, but after getting married, we had to interact with her more often. Even though she had never visited our home while we were living together, she started coming over quite frequently after we got married. Emily, do you even clean the room properly? Huh? Look at all this dust. I can't reach that high and I don't have time to clean there after work. What? You're talking back to your mother-in-law? You're a cheeky wife. I just said I couldn't do what I couldn't do. You're just full of excuses. I can't believe Steve married someone like you. My mother-in-law took every opportunity to berate me. Since I left for work earlier and returned earlier than my husband, my mother-in-law would relentlessly harass me until he came home. I did housework, hoping my husband would come home soon. What are you making? Huh? I'm grilling fish. Steve won't be satisfied with that. Make a more elaborate meat dish. Mother-in-law, what are you doing? My mother-in-law threw the grilled fish I had made into the trash. I can't believe I left the daily cooking to you. From now on, I'll do it. What? If she cooks, that means she'll come every day. I don't want that at all. There's no need, mother-in-law. I'll cook properly. No, I don't trust you. I'll come and cook every day. Just then, my husband Steve came home. She immediately consulted with Steve about it. Oh, you're going to help with housework, Mom? That's great. Please do. Huh? Steve decided without even listening to my opinion. I'm looking forward to cooking with you, Emily, she said, laughing triumphantly. From then on, it was hell. She got the key from Steve and started getting into the house, waiting for me to come home from work. You're late. Don't just leave everything to me because I'm cooking. Start cleaning now. She forced me to do housework even when I was exhausted from work. She insisted on it even though it wasn't that dirty. She constantly watched me, and if I took a rest, she would scold me relentlessly. So I had no choice but to clean and become even more tired. She really did come every day to cook, and she even ate dinner with us. She badmouthed me in front of Steve, saying I was useless. Don't make trouble for Mom. He blamed me instead of reprimanding his mother. My mother-in-law could come to our house every day because her husband was working abroad. She lived by herself, so she could come to our place frequently. She started pressuring me about having a grandchild. There's nothing better than having a child. Hurry up and have one or two. Even if you say that, it's not something we can just make happen. We have to wait for it. Really? Young people these days always have excuses. I had Steve right after I got married. Huh? It's because you're working, that's why. What? I was a housewife, so I could have children right away. What kind of logic is that? If you properly support your husband's life, you'll have more time for making children. You're too tired from work to do it. What a thing to say. That's so cruel. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Shut up. If you don't get pregnant soon, we'll find another wife. Eh? Another wife? Of course, there's no value in a woman who can't have children. I think it's questionable to say such discriminatory words these days. You really are the type to always argue back. I'll tell Steve. Mother-in-law angrily turned red in the face. I thought she was the one who always argued back. As soon as Steve came home, his mother told him what happened. Hey, Emily, did you talk back to my mom? What are you thinking? Steve immediately got angry after hearing his mother's story. It's probably your fault that we can't have children. Eh? You're saying that too? There's no way it's my fault. What nonsense are you talking about? I was getting fed up with my husband, who always sided with his mother. I thought it might be better to get a divorce. That's when my husband's grandmother, who had been hospitalized, passed away. So a funeral was held. Even though I was considering divorce, I had to attend the funeral. But my husband and his mother said, "Don't come here, prepare things in the back." I had no choice but to make tea and to do chores in the back. I thought I'd leave my husband once this was over. As I was doing the chores, I heard yelling from the venue. "Why isn't Emily here?" That was my father-in-law's voice. It seems he had returned from an overseas business trip. Well, it was his mother-in-law, so it made sense for him to come. I thought I should at least greet my father-in-law, so I headed to the venue. Then I heard my husband and mother-in-law say while smirking, "It's obvious she's not family, haha. We're making that dirty woman work in the back. Haha. They even said that in front of my father-in-law. I was amazed by their unchanged behavior. Then the next moment, my father-in-law's angry voice rang out. Are you kidding me? What do you think a wife is for? My husband and mother-in-law were shocked by his yelling. What are you angry about? Yeah, you really surprised us. I'm disgusted that you two think like that. I'll call Emily. Hearing my father-in-law say that, I went to where the three of them were. Father-in-law, long time no see. Yes, I was surprised. Emily, did you hear that? Yes. As I entered, my mother-in-law and husband glared at me with disgusted faces. Emily, could it be that you've been suffering from bullying by my son and my wife? When my father-in-law asked me that, I replied, yes. She came to the house almost every day to complain about me, and Steve joined in to blame me. When I said that, my father-in-law glared at his wife and his son. You guys are the worst. Have some shame. My husband argued back when scolded by his father. What? Did we do something so bad? It's really the worst that they don't realize their own faults. My mother, in other words, your grandmother, was always troubled by being bullied by her mother-in-law. That's why I wanted to be kind to my son's wife when I became a father-in-law, and I never bullied her once. You don't have any bad memories from my mother, do you? Well, that's true. Even so, you yourself are bullying Emily and making her suffer. What kind of nerve do you have? Because this woman won't give us a grandchild. Having a child is a blessing. Just because you happen to give birth early doesn't mean you should force that on your daughter-in-law. You guys are really hopeless. My father-in-law said this and asked me this. Emily, what do you think? Do you want to continue your marriage with my son? Hey, Dad, what are you saying? My husband was flustered, but I ignored him and looked at my father-in-law and said this. I want to divorce him. Hey, Emily, are you serious? Your mother told me that if I can't have a child, I have to find another wife. Wait a minute, Emily, what are you saying? I don't want to be with a mother-in-law who says such things, and I'm fed up with a husband who joins in the blame without defending me. So I'll divorce my husband no matter what. When I said that, my father-in-law said, I think that's a good idea. If you're going to divorce, there's no need to help with this funeral anymore. Emily, thank you for everything up to now. You can go home. You have to pack your things. Yes, thank you. I'm glad I could talk to you, father-in-law. I said that and left the venue. My husband and mother-in-law had pale faces, and since our conversation was overheard by all the relatives, news of my mother-in-law and husband's bullying spread quickly, and they were looked upon coldly by everyone. After that, with my father-in-law's help, I officially divorced my husband. And it seems my father-in-law was so appalled by this incident that he divorced my mother-in-law as well. My mother-in-law was abandoned by my father-in-law and had nowhere to turn, so she ran to my ex-husband's place. But up until now, I had been paying for most of the living expenses. So, if my ex-husband and mother-in-law continue to spend on food and other miscellaneous expenses as they have been, their money will surely run out. In fact, since my ex-husband hadn't saved any money, the two of them are said to be running out of money and struggling to make ends meet. Well, it's none of my business, so I don't really care. Meanwhile, I live in a single-person apartment and enjoy my single life. I recently started keeping a cat, so I don't think I'll be dating for a while.